Hi everybody, Leo Babauta here from Zen Habits. Good to be here with you. In this video, we're going to talk about what happens when you get caught up in the weeds of a task or a project, and there's like a million different decisions to be made, and you start to get overwhelmed, and you want to just shut it down and avoid it or quit. Um, and so, if you can relate to that, this video is for you. So what usually happens is, let's say I want to take on a task, right? This is a task that might have multiple steps, and each step there's a decision to be made, and then another decision, another decision. And I get kind of caught up in indecision with all of these different decisions to be made, and all of it starts to feel really overwhelming and daunting. And so what I want to do is just push it away. It's just too much, and I can't think about it all, and I feel overwhelmed. So this is a very common thing, and what I want to talk about is this is a messiness that we don't like to feel, and so we try and get away from it. It's almost like a magnetic thing repelling us away from this thing because it feels like too much. It's like if something is really like overwhelming you and making you feel anxious and stressed, you want to just shut it down so you don't have to deal with that. Now, of course, the thing's still there for you to deal with, and at some point you have to open it back up, and it's like, and then you just shut it down again. And so, what if we didn't have to shut it down? That's the premise of this video. Is there is a feeling that happens when things start to get really messy and there's a lot of decisions to be made and it feels like too much. We can call it a feeling of overwhelm or messiness, and we want to just push that away. So the thing I want to encourage is the training ourselves to stay open, even when that feeling of uncertainty, fear, messiness, overwhelm, anxiety, all of that stuff comes up, and it can really feel overwhelming and intense. We can stay open there. And the question is, if you didn't have to shut that down, then what? If you could stay open in the middle of that messiness and overwhelm, then what? What would happen for you? And what I have seen happen in my own life and in others that I've worked with is that we can be like, ooh, that's really overwhelming. Let me breathe. And then I can still take action. I can still move forward. And things start to move forward much better if we can like let ourselves do that. And so there's a way to train ourselves in this, being able to stay open and not need to shut down when that stuff starts to come up. And I'm going to talk about that in this video. So the first thing is to notice like, I'm feeling this overwhelm. And so let's say there's this task that you're avoiding. So the training is to say like, this is the task that I'm going to take on today. It feels overwhelming. Maybe it's like doing my taxes. Maybe it's, working with my budget. Maybe it's, doing some paperwork that I've been avoiding, answering this one email, working on this report. And so we set that in front of ourselves as the thing that I want to do. We make some space, clear some space so that you can just focus on this. When I say make some space, I mean like close everything else. Give yourself, 30 minutes, to work on it, let's say, and then just sit down and work on it. Now, you might need more than 30 minutes, but let's just start with 30 minutes. You might actually start with less. Let's say 15 minutes is actually ideal for a lot of people. 5 minutes might be even where you want to start. There's not a right answer here, but it's like, what do you feel up for working on? Now, I want to acknowledge that if you work for 15 minutes or 5 minutes or 30 minutes, you might not actually complete this task. That's okay. We're not training ourselves to complete the task. We're training ourselves to stay with the task when that overwhelm comes up, which is usually earlier than 5 minutes. So 5 minutes is actually enough to train with this. But let's say you said 15 minutes is what I'm going to give myself, or 30 minutes. So you give yourself that time. You've got the task here in front of you. And now you're like, okay, I'm actually going to work with this. And then you're like, oh, but what do I do with this? What program do I use here? What about this decision? And so these things come up and you feel overwhelmed. And that's what we want to notice is I am feeling overwhelmed right now, and I want to push this away, right? And when that happens, all I want you to do is take some deep breaths. 3 deep breaths down deep into the belly. Slower, deeper breaths. And what we're doing here is soothing the nervous system. So deep breaths soothe the nervous system. And what you might notice is, oh, I'm feeling some overwhelm. I'm feeling like things are too messy, or I don't know how to make all these decisions. There's too much of it. And so instead of getting caught up in the thoughts about that, just notice and then breathe, soothing your nervous system. Do more than 3 breaths if you need it, but 3 is the minimum. Okay, so I want you to do 3 at least, and if you feel like you can, you need more, do 5, do 10. And then I want you to say, okay, what's the simplest thing that I can focus on right now with this? Maybe it's just one decision that I'm going to make. And when you make a decision, choose from the gut, choose from the heart. So we don't need to overthink it, get caught up in all that. Well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Just let yourself choose something. I am going to try this. I'm going to use this software. I am going to move in that direction. And we want to do it without any overthinking. We want to just get ourselves into the habit of, this is the thing. I made the decision. And then trust yourself to deal with that decision, to use that platform or software or move in that direction, and then deal with whatever mess comes on the other side of that at some point. But for now, I want you just to make the decision and trust it. Take one little action and trust yourself. Take another little action and trust yourself. Overwhelm, okay, breathe, you know what to do, and then take the next action, make the next decision. So this is what we're doing, is a little bit of a cycle where I feel overwhelmed, breathe, take an action, make a decision. Overwhelm, breathe, make a decision. Overwhelm, breathe, take an action. That kind of thing. So decisions and actions, I would consider them really the same thing, but sometimes an action is I'm going to write some words. Sometimes an action is I'm going to make a decision. And we want to just do that for the 15, 30 minutes we're working with this task. And then you can shut it down at that point and come back to it tomorrow. Now, some tasks are going to be due today, and so you might not be able to afford to put it off till tomorrow, but you could work with it in little chunks. So 15, 30-minute chunk, go take a break, stretch out, do some movement, go for a walk around the block, come back, do the next thing. And then again, breathe, take action, breathe, make a decision, that kind of thing. And then take a break after 15 to 30 minutes, come back. And so that's for things where, let's say you can't just put it off forever. And so if you can put it off, if you don't need to finish it today, you can just do 15, 30 minutes today, 15 to 30 minutes tomorrow, and so forth. And then take the next thing and put it in front of yourself. But if it's something where you would actually like to finish it today, then you can do it in chunks. There's a structure that many of you might be familiar with called Pomodoro, and that would be a 25-minute focus session with a 5-minute break, and then repeat. Another 25 minutes, 5 minutes, and you can see that comes out to 30 minutes. And I actually think that can be a nice cycle, but for sometimes it's nice to have a 10-minute break, 15-minute break. So I wouldn't get too strict about the 5-minute break, but I do like that structure of having yourself focus for a little bit and then take a break. Focus and take a break. So you can play with the amount that works for you. A couple of notes about this training. One is you're not going to be perfect at it. We're not trying to be perfect, do it right. What we're trying to do is train ourselves to have at least a little bit of overwhelm, decision anxiety, some kind of like thing that comes up for us, uncertainty and fear, and then just breathe, soothe our nervous system, and then take the next small action. And if we can train that way, let's say, one or two or three times in a focus session. We do that every day. What happens is that you now start to trust yourself that you can stay open or reopen in the middle of uncertainty. So we don't need to be perfect at it. Maybe sometimes you're just like, oh, I can't do it. But then the next time, try again. We want to keep training ourselves in this way. And what happens is we start to have a nervous system that can handle a little bit more. We grow our capacity and we grow our trust in ourselves. I think that if we can start with, let's say, 15 or 30 minutes to start with, or 5 minutes if 15 is too much, but start with a smaller chunk. And then if you can do that on a regular basis, let's say once a day or every weekday, start to expand that to 30 minutes. And then once you get to 30 minutes, what I want you to do is after, let's say, 5 weekdays in a row, you can expand. So let's say you start with 15 minutes to start with the first week, 5 days in a row of 15 minutes. Then the next week, 5 days in a row of 30 minutes. And then the next week, you might do 5 days in a row of 2 sessions of 30 minutes. If that feels like too much, do a 30-minute session and a 15-minute session. But we want to progress like this by having multiple sessions through the day with a break in between. And eventually we could do 10 sessions if you wanted to. So 10 30-minute sessions is 5 hours of work, right? So you don't have to do 10 sessions. We're not trying to get to 10. We're trying to expand our capacity through this kind of training. Another thing is I like to keep a list of 5 to 10 things that I've been avoiding that I'd like to move forward. And that's what I use for these focus sessions. What are the things that I'm avoiding that I can move forward? If it's too intense, choose something smaller. You can even find a smaller version of a task. Instead of doing my taxes, maybe I can just open up the tax document and fill out my name, right? It's pretty simple. Now, name and social security number, right? And address. Okay, great. I can do that. Next, it asks for these things. Okay, so my next task is pull up my W-2s, my W-2 forms, or whatever it is that I need, some form that I need. I pull that up, and that's the whole task. I don't have to finish my taxes. I just do the next small task, and that's what I'm working on. Once I have that, then I can take the number, put it into the form, right? So one little step at a time, I'm starting to move forward through this document. And eventually I'll finish the document, but I just need to do one small task at a time. So if it's too overwhelming, too big, narrow it down. If it just feels really scary and you're feeling a lot of anxiety, let yourself take a break. Work on something that's a little bit easier. We don't need to work on the most intense thing possible. Okay, these are my training tips for you. If you're interested in this kind of training, to doing it with me and others in a community, I have a thing called the Fearless Living Academy. fearlessliving.zenhabits.net. fearlessliving.zenhabits.net is the page where you can check out information about it. But it's a membership program where we have dozens of video courses on habits and this very thing that we're talking about here. But also we have a thing called the practice, which is basically a structured training exactly like I've described it here, but doing it with others. So you have an accountability group. We have an app that you would use called the Practice app. We have some videos to help you with this kind of training. And it's a monthly challenge where you actually challenge yourself to face the things that you've been avoiding and start to create what you want to create in your life. It's actually very, very powerful. We've seen people do this training in Fearless Living Academy and shift things that they've been wanting to shift for years, do projects that they've been putting off for years, and actually start to move their lives forward. That's what the practice is about. That's what Fearless Living is about. Taking action in your life. If you're struggling with that, come join us. fearlessliving.zenhabits.net is the page where you can sign up, get more information. And I do monthly webinars, workshops where you can ask me questions. I have a weekly coaching thread where you can ask me questions. I'm on there and I will help you with this. So come join me. I actually would really love it. Okay, my friends, like this video if it was helpful for you. Share it with others. I would love that. And please subscribe to the channel. I would love that. I'm trying to grow the community and love creating this content for you. So subscribe, like, comment, all of those beautiful things. Thanks, my friends. I'll talk to you later.